everybody. How are you doing today? I'm Gerald, Ginger Gerald Stitcher, and I'm here with Yvonne, Night Owl Stitcher. Hi, Yvonne.
Hey, everyone. Hey, Gerald. Doing great.
We are here to talk some fiber, cross stitch, and other stuff. So, you have a channel on YouTube, the Night Owl Stitcher, or Night Owl Stitcher. We all say it the wrong way, even though it's Yvonne Night Owl Stitcher. It'll all be linked below. So you can find her on YouTube and Instagram as Yvonne Night Owl Stitcher.
Right.
And Instagram is just Night Owl Stitcher?
Yes, it is.
So, again, it will all be linked below. You'll see it up on the screen, blah, 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 blah. So, how did you get into cross stitch, Yvonne?
Well, we have to get in the time machine and go way, way back to 1977. So that was December of 1977, so 40 years ago. That would have put me in the 4th grade. And I was in Girl Scouts. So, you know, in Girl Scouts, one of your main objectives, I guess your main objective, is to do tasks or complete certain things to earn badges. And so we were working on our sewing badge. And I can remember this day so vividly. We would always have to take the school bus from our school to another school to have our troop meetings. And it was probably like the 2nd week of December. You know, being that age, you're hyped up with Christmas and, you know, what is Santa going to bring, that type of thing. And there's just a lot of excitement in the air. So that day in particular was dark. You know, I don't know why it was so dark for that time of the day, but it was raining, it was cold, it was just, I can remember riding in the school bus and just seeing the lights. Just, you know, the Christmas lights were up on the streets, and it was just, I don't know, it was just a good day, even though it was just a nasty day weather-wise. So we get to the school, and we go into I guess it's the lunchatorium. It's, you know, part lunchroom, part auditorium type thing. It's, you know, it's got the stage up there, and all of the chairs are in a big circle. And so we all sit down, and I don't even know if we knew we were working on the sewing badge. You know, it was kind of like anticipation type thing. And the troop mom for that month, she passed out the little bags, the little kits. And I was just fascinated. It was, I had a piece of Ada, and I had my own needle, and a skein of green floss and red floss, and one of those little plastic ornament frames. And we were going to learn how to cross stitch, and it was going to be a little wreath that we was going to make into an ornament. And I was just excited. No one in my family or friends of the family cross-stitched. I had 2 aunts that they sewed, you know, clothes. I had one aunt that crocheted and one that made dolls. But even though they made them, I never saw them in the process of making them. I just saw their end product. And so this was just exciting. You know, this was a kit, and it was mine, you know. And I never made the ornament, because I took that wreath pattern and those skeins of floss, and I covered that piece of Ada with those wreaths. I just continuously stitched that wreath over and over and over again. If I ran out of room, I would just pick it out and stitch it again. And yeah, that was just my excitement. You know, I wanted to continue, but, you know, that age, I guess you're, 9, 10 years old in the 4th grade. And, you know, it's not like you can just get in the car and go to a shop and buy more supplies, which I don't even think where I live there would be supplies for me to buy. And so you know, it was a project at that time that I got to learn, and unfortunately, it was many years later before I was able to pick it up. But I did bring my Girl Scout sash, and this is the sash that we had to wear to every meeting. And I think that this is my badge for sewing. It's like a yarn doll, but I don't know. None of the other badges would kind of fit that description. So I guess I need to kind of Google and find out what these badges are. I can't find my book, but my mom dug this out not too long ago, so I was able to bring it home, and I have it in my curio cabinet. But yes, I got my badge.
Very nice. So you said that then you weren't able to, that was the only project you did when you learned how to stitch, and you didn't stitch for many years. So what brought you back to cross stitching?
The postman. Postman. Yeah, the postman.
Okay.
Yes, one of the excitements of living in a country rural type area is mail, and so, you know, I don't know if it was summertime or I don't know. It was a task that I was always up for, was to go to the mailbox and see what was in the mailbox. And that particular day, there was the premiere issue of Cross Stitching Country Crafts magazine, and you know, they sent that to me for free, and you know, with the information on how to subscribe, which I did, and it just opened my eyes, because you know, my only exposure to cross stitch was a little wreath that probably had maybe 15 stitches in it, if that. And you know, I saw major projects. I saw things that were stitched and could be framed and hung on the wall, pillows and ornaments, and even three-dimensional type items were in that magazine. And so yeah, that was it. And what was also exciting about it was the back of the magazine, you know, had an order form. You know, you could order materials for the projects that were in the magazine. Now, of course, that meant you had to tear the order form out, fill it out by pen, write a check, stick it in an envelope, you know, that type of thing. Not like the instant gratification at 2 o'clock in the morning with the internet, you know. So, but it was still exciting. You know, it's just as much excitement then as it is now.
So was there a specific style then that really drew you to it again, or was it just the fact of that you were excited to do that, bring you back to that memory of 4th grade, 11-year-old wreath making, X stitching love?
Probably not a style, because I mean, you know, the beginnings of that magazine, because of the time period, you know, it was a lot of geese and cows and, you know, the blues and mauves, that type of period. But when you went from not having exposure to that, and that was the only thing that you had, it didn't really matter what the theme was or what it was. It was, you know, if you wanted to cross stitch and that's all you had was those pages in a magazine, you know, you jumped on it. You know, you liked it. You know, sometimes less is more, you know, because, you know, you had those projects to choose from, and you weren't overwhelmed with so many projects that we have now. You know, I think all of us, we struggle with, oh, you know, I don't know if I want to stitch this or I want to stitch that. Yeah. You know, it wasn't an issue. You know, it's like, oh, I like that. That's what I want to stitch. So you ordered the supplies and waited patiently by the mailbox for the postman. You know, he was your friend, and you know, you got your supplies.
So have you been stitching regularly since the 90s?
From that, you know, because that was the only thing that you had. I remember in the back of the magazine, there was an ad for the Spirit of Cross Stitch festivals. And I think in 1993 was the first festival that I went to. And it was in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And, you know, you go from a simple little Christmas wreath to just one magazine to a civic center full of designers and shops and product. To say I was overwhelmed would be an understatement. You know, I didn't know the Alma Lynn's and the Pat Rogers and trying to think of all the people from that period. The Maureen Appletons, you know, I didn't know anything about Over One. I didn't know anything about stitching on linen. Kreinik, oh my gosh, I remember seeing that for the first time, and it was like, I can make my project sparkly. And beads, I didn't know anything about that. And so I was totally overwhelmed, but you know, it was excitement because it was like, okay, next year I can come back to this festival, because I didn't know anything about cross stitch shops or if there was any near me, and that was before the internet.
Sure.
So it wasn't like you could look up to see if there was a nearby shop or anything like that. And again, I wasn't exposed to anybody that cross stitched, so there was not even the word of mouth type thing. And but yeah, just amazing. You know, it was a love from being in the 4th grade that never left. You know, it was someone taught me how to do that, and it never left. It's just that I couldn't get anything to continue
Sure.
the hobby.
So let's bring it into the 21st century then. What has changed since the 90s for you? Has anything changed? Obviously, you know, styles have changed slightly, patterns have changed. So for you, what has changed in your stitching, your techniques, your styles, your pattern selection?
I'm more of a collector now. You know, it's now you've got to buy it. It's like when it comes out, whether, and you know deep down inside, I'm not going to be able to stitch this in my lifetime. You know what you have in your collection. And now it's like, give it to me. Give it all to me right now. As then, you know, it was like if you bought it, you knew that was going to be your project. You know,
Sure.
You was a one project at a time type stitcher. And so now you have everything at your fingertips. You know, like I said, you can order at 2 o'clock in the morning. You can have next day delivery. So I think that's the biggest change.
So then you were a one project stitcher. Now you have multiple on the go.
Yes.
Okay. Has your style changed?
Well, yes, because, you know, I went from geese and cows, even though I'm kind of back into cows now. Different kind of cows, not 80s cows. These are country cows. But probably, you know, when I first saw Just Nan, I was a big Just Nan fan. I remember going into a little shop in Pawleys Island, South Carolina, and buying a Just Nan pattern and the embellishment kit, which I thought that was just amazing that there was an embellishment kit that had all of the threads and Kreinik and beads and buttons and, you know, and was able to do this pink fan sampler that was very Victorian in style. And so, yeah, you know, that's not my decorating style now, but, you know, it's a piece which is put up. I kind of sort of know where it is, but I couldn't dig it out for this. But
you got to experiment with it.
I did, you know. And so, I don't have a particular designer that I follow. You know, I guess if I had to choose one, probably my style would be Prairie Schooler, just because their pieces are very timeless. You know, I think I think they design and make something for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But to say I'm a true prairie schooler only stitcher, no. You know, I like some samplers. You know, it's the element. It's the design itself that draws me to it. You know, it may be a motif in it. It may be colors. It may just be the placement. Or, you know, it's something about that design that will just draw me in, and that's I purchase it. I don't shop name brands, that type of thing.
Cool. So obviously let's continue on this track here. So your style has slightly changed. Obviously, I assume you were using DMC back in the 90s.
Mm-hmm. I think it was probably in the 90s it was DMC. I have no idea, like when I first learned, if I was using DMC or Anchor, or I don't know what the first floss from 1977 would be. I didn't really care. It was a green floss and it was a red floss.
So let's talk. Do you have a favorite style of floss, or are you eclectic in your collection?
I'm eclectic. I'm DMC, I think, is going to be a standard in anybody's tool belt,
Mm-hmm.
type thing. Some designs I think look better in overdyes. Blackbird designs, for instance. I think because of the style of the design, and I think most of their designs anyway are charted for overdyes. And, they're ones that I don't normally would convert over to DMC. I think it's just the design itself and how you want it to reflect you or your style, or how you're going to use it, on whether you invest in overdyes or whether you want to just stick with DMC or vice versa.
That's a great answer. I like that answer, because I think it is important to reflect your own personality in your stitching, because it is, it's a time commitment, and it's, you want it to be, especially if you're going to have it displayed in your home,
right? You
want it to be something that you're going to enjoy for a long period, for a long time. And if you don't enjoy it, or you're not enjoying stitching on it because, it might not be what you would pick for colors, then. So in that respect, then, do you change colors? Are you more of a purist and go with what the pattern calls for, or? And I'm not saying anything about changing colors or being.
No.
It doesn't matter. I'm just curious.
No, just I typically am a purist, and just because I think that's what drew me to the design itself.
Sure.
Is what it was. But sometimes the red that the artists, and I call them artists, I think that's something that we need to realize, is that the designers and the people behind the scenes that are artists, we need to consider ourselves artists as well. And it's really hard for some of us, and I'm talking about myself, to change something, because it's like that designer put all that work into developing it, and that's why I bought it, is because of the picture or the model that I saw, in a shop. But sometimes there may be a red that just doesn't work, or and that I want to change or whatever. I have never taken a design and like completely changed all the colors. I would probably nut up, just because there's a lot of hues and that type of thing. And it's like, it's like, okay, if I want this red to now be blue, there's so many blues. It's like, how am I going to get the blue to look right with everything else? And it's like, sometimes it does a snowball effect. If you change this one color, you got to change another color. And I'm trying to get outside of that box that I have to conform to, okay, this is the way it's supposed to be, A, B, C, D, and say, okay, no, I can change that. And or maybe if I see something and I don't buy it because of a certain color or an element, why am I not buying that when I can change it? And because I'm an artist. If I've been doing this not continuously since 1977, I should be able to feel comfortable enough to do it. And it's just thread, you know, or it's just fabric. It's just, you know, it's something that is easily fixable if you don't like it.
Sure. And I think for me, like, because I have changed an entire project.
You're so brave.
Well, only because I really like I did like the project, but I didn't like the color palette at all, and it would never fit in my home.
Right.
So for me, I think it's much easier to start on a project that only has a handful of colors.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and to try that first.
I agree with that.
Just to get your bearings. And then maybe venture into a much larger project. Of course, I would never change a full coverage or anything like that just because of the detail. But for a smaller, you know, I only did like a, you know, I don't know, not even an 8 by, it was maybe like a 4 by 6 picture. So project. So, but yeah, I think for me, it was fun to change the colors, to play around with color and to, you know, to learn more about color and how, because surprisingly, it's amazing how a floss can look one way on a bobbin or on a skein, and then look completely different whenever it's stitched up between different X's on the fabric. Exactly.
And I can look at it in one light and then look at it in different light, and it's totally different.
Yeah.
You know, and so, but it's something that I want to dabble in a little bit more. You know, I don't want to say confined, because that sounds like that's rules or whatever, and there's no rules. You know, I just think that I need to be a little bit more adventurous, and when I look at something, not to say, oh, that's what the finished outcome should be. You know, I may want that finished outcome exactly as it is, but you know, if I see something and I go, oh, I don't like that, well, you know, I need to stop and just pause for a moment and say, okay, well, how can I make that design what I like?
Yeah.
And I think as long as I've been doing this, I can do that, and I should feel comfortable. With it.
So let's talk finishing. How do you like to finish? Are you more of a framer? Do you finish your own pieces non-framing?
I used to be just framing. If you couldn't frame it, then you couldn't finish it. And so you start running out of wall space, or it just doesn't go with everything else, but you still want to use it, or so no, I kind of jumped out of that. And again, it's something that you have to start becoming comfortable with and realize that, okay, it's fixable if you mess it up. And that's why I would not like cut my fabric and attempt to sew it on a sewing machine and stuff it, because it was going to be crooked. It was going to be, you know, the corner was going to be lopsided or something like that. And I had to just say, okay, it's fine if it's not perfect. You know, it's perfectly fine if it's not, if it's totally messed up. And I have totally messed up some things before. I mean, just, and, you know, okay, it's not fixable. All right, we'll just stitch it again. Yep. You know, big dramatic statement pieces, yeah, they have to be framed. I mean, you know, I think that's the only way you can really present those. And I'm talking things like samplers or you know, something that's 18 by 18 inches, you know, more than likely it's got to be framed. I mean, you know, but there's so many creative people out there in FlossTube land and other areas that have really started to think outside the box in finishing. And, you know, I'm starting to look at things different. We were at Lowe's yesterday, and I was in the flower and garden section, and there was these little cork heads that you put under your flower pots. And I'm going, And I'm looking at it, and my husband's like, you know, do we need some of those? And I'm thinking, well, I might need some of these for cross stitch. You know, I can just tell it's like, what is she talking about? You know, but yeah, they, you know, I don't know. I feel like I could use those cork pads for something. So I'm starting to look at things different and know that, you know, it's not just stitching something and put it in a frame. You know, you can, you know, and you can glue it. You know, there's nothing wrong with glue. There's, you know, it's however you want to finish it. It's your product. It's your design per se. You know, and so, you know, make it work for you, and it's fine. You know, you may start a new trend that, you know, everybody didn't think of, and it gets them thinking outside of the box. And once you get people all thinking different, you know, it grows the hobby even more.
Yeah, and there's no stitching police, so whatever you want to do, you do.
And that's a great thing. There's no stitching police. Exactly. That's a great thing.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Now I walk through all the stores, even the grocery stores. I'm like, I could use that for cross stitch. So.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what you're going to do with the Lay's potato chip bag.
Yeah, I don't know. I got a coupon for one of those though, so you know, you never know.
I know, and if anyone could do it, it's Gerald.
Oh yeah. Okay, so speaking of FlossTube and YouTube, you have your own channel.
Yes.
You're a regular contributor. How has that contributed to your cross stitch or your hobby? You know, your stitching, your hobby. Has that?
I stitch more and finish more now than I ever did before, because I feel like I'm held accountable to the viewers. And you know, I never dreamed when I did this, and this was just, you know, I said, okay, I'll do a video. You know, I had some pressure from a couple of friends to do it, and you know, I was like, I don't want to do this, you know. But it was a new year, new resolutions, and I was like, okay, we'll just do it. I'll do a couple. We'll just see what happens. No biggie. And you know, I started seeing the same viewers, you know, and you know, they would just so much encouragement. I mean, I'm so surprised at FlossTube on how positive it is. You know, there's so many social media platforms that are not positive. And, you know, I just feel like there's so much uplifting and encouragement. So, you know, if you show something and you really just didn't feel like it was worthy enough to put in your house, much less to show to the world, and you get all of these people coming back saying, that is just beautiful, that's awesome, it does something. You know, everybody wants to have an attaboy, attagirl, you know, and so it makes you want to do more. And it's like, okay, you know, I've got to show somebody something else, or, oh, I've got this idea, and that, you know, I've got this hint or tip that somebody else could use, you know, because I learned the hard way. And, you know, it's been positive. And, yeah, it's my #1 hobby. You know, I can't have a day that's complete, you know, if I don't put in a couple of stitches, or, you know, organize some threads, or do something that is cross stitch related. And it takes a lot of work, you know, as you know, to put these videos together. But, you know, as long as it's fun and you get the encouragement and you're making friends. I mean, Gerald, you and I didn't know each other at all. If it hadn't been for FlossTube, we would have never met. And so, that right there, if that's the only thing I ever got out of FlossTube is that I have a friendship with you and others, then it's okay. I could close shop right now and it would be complete.
So you mentioned this is your number one hobby. Do you have any other hobbies? I know you're learning to knit with me. How's that going?
I have been a crafter from the day I was born. I mean, I love Play-Doh, even though Mom and Daddy would not let me have Play-Doh, because it was like, oh, it's going to get in the carpet. They were just, back then it was shag carpet, so I could understand probably why they didn't want me to have Play-Doh. But, it was anything that just used my mind and my hands was my go-to thing. I can remember coloring books. I collected coloring books like I collect cross-stitch patterns. I mean, I had coloring books stuffed everywhere. And so it's always been a thing. I remember one year, maybe 8 years ago, that was my New Year's resolution, is I was going to learn something new crafty-wise that entire year. And I did glass, and I did making the mesh wreaths for the doors. And I learned to knit that year, dabbled in it a little bit. But yeah, I've got to have I got to have something that keeps me busy. I can't just sit there. I can't be a TV watcher or, a peddler. I've got to have something.
Yeah.
And I don't go anywhere without my cross stitch. I mean, I said that in the beginning of my videos, that I've got to have it with me. I can't imagine, and it's happened before, being somewhere and say the power goes out and you're stuck somewhere and not having something to do. It's boring. It's just boring to me. So I feel like you need to be productive in some way.
Cool. So my last question for you is, you've gotten so much out of FlossTube and YouTube. Is there anything more you would like to see from YouTube or FlossTube? Or, is there anything more you would like to get out of the community as it is right now?
I would like to see more finishers. And I would like this, and I don't mean just people that do finishing as their work or their livelihood. We are seeing so many new FlossTubers that join every single day, and everyone is stitching. A lot of people are stitching the exact same thing, and that's perfectly fine. But let me see you finish it. Let me see the end results. And you only have a handful of people that show the finishing. And so even these people or companies that do finishing, join the community, join FlossTube and show us, what you're doing. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of business, and that may be why you're not doing it. You're not prepared to have a lot of business at this point of your life. But I think that's what we want to see. I think there's a lack of finishing out there in FlossTube. We're all stitching away, but are we putting it in a box under the bed, or are we finishing it? And so I think we need to see that. And if more people see that, it's going to drive more finishing. The ones that I have seen that are finishers, their designs and their ideas are taking off. I mean, you're seeing people that are copying that per se and are doing their own spin on it. So I would like to see that. I would also like to see more of the people on the that are not in the front spotlight. The people that like dye fabrics or that dye threads. I would like to learn more about their process. You know, I think that would be fascinating to know what goes into that process, to give us a learning experience and to, you know, understand what goes into it. I went to a silver needle retreat maybe 3 years ago, and just another button company was there, and we hands-on learned how to make buttons. I tell you right now, I would pay $10, $20 for a button after learning how they make those buttons. Was it hard? I'm going to say yes. I mean, it was not an easy process for them that, you know, that do it every single day. Yeah, maybe it's easy, maybe it's not, but there's a lot of work, and they are true artists that make those buttons. And for me to try to make a simple little, I think it was just a little simple flower, was just mind-boggling. And so I think that would just be great. You know, it'd be educational. And it's an artistry. You know, you're behind the scenes, but you're an artist too, just like the designer that takes your product and makes something. Yeah. I think that, you know, we need to see that. And, you know, and also, you know, the little sidebar type things like Donna Ray doing the education on her bees. You know, that was just really fascinating because, you know, we may not be into bees, but we do know about beeswax, and some of us use beeswax when we stitch. And so, a
lot of us stitch bees.
Yeah, a lot of us stitch bees. And so, you know, that little snippets, you know, having Pat come and give an ironing lesson, you know, I think education is lacking. And I'm not just saying here in FlossTube or, you know, I think it's everywhere. I think we get so boggled down with, you know, the internet that we forget that there's still so much more out there that we're not searching for. So it needs to just kind of be brought to us. And so, yeah, education should go on forever. And just because we've been stitching for years and years and years, I think there's still stuff that we all can learn every single day.
Excellent. Well, do you have last things you would like to add before we wrap it up here?
I don't think so.
Okay.
This was fun.
It was.
Yeah, my encouragement is if anybody is out there, you know, wanting to jump in and do FlossTube videos, you know, go for it. It's not a commitment. You're not signing a contract and saying, okay, I've got to do this many videos. I've got to do them for this long. You know, there's no rules for this. You know, I think the only thing that, you know, I would say a rule should be, and I don't see anybody breaking that rule, is keeping it positive, keeping it to be a happy place, an enjoyment place. Because for some people that are watching, this is their only contact with other stitchers.
Yeah.
And so, you know, if, you know, they're out there searching for a friend, and, you know, it's not a back and forth banter, except, you know, in the comments, but, you know, they want to see what you're doing, and they want to feel like they're a part of a stitching community. And so it's up to us that are making the videos to give them a happy place, to invite them into our homes and make them feel comfortable and welcome. So yeah, don't be afraid to do it. You know, I think as long as everyone is having fun and everybody is playing nice, you know, this community will just continue to grow.
Exactly. And along those lines, if you're a private person, I'm a very private person, you only have to put out as much information as you want to. If you just really want to talk about your stitching, then you talk about your stitching and you leave your personal stuff to yourself. If you want to put more about your life out, then you put more about your life out. And that's, you know, and if you don't like it, and then you can take your videos down.
Right.
You know,
and the same for the viewers too. You know, if you're watching someone and it's something that you don't like, you don't have to watch, you know, but just keep it fun. And so there's something out there for everyone. Every stitching style, every personality. Don't give up because you watch one video of somebody that's stitching something that you just don't like. That's fine. It may be that's just what they're stitching on at the moment. So, give them another try. There's, like I said, there's something for everyone, and this is a big community, and I see it growing. I don't see it going anywhere by any means.
Well, I want to thank you, Yvonne, for coming on and having this chat with us. And I hope you will consider doing it again with us sometime soon.
Oh, yes.
And again, I want to encourage all of you, if you are not already a subscriber to Yvonne, go check her out on her channel, Yvonne Night Owl Stitcher, and that will be linked again below. And go check her out on Instagram and give her some Instagram love. And we will see you again soon.
Thank you, Gerald. Thank you so much for doing this and for, keeping us entertained. And giving us something different. And so I appreciate that. And I think everybody else will too.
Thank you. And don't forget, be creative.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.